Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining this training session. My name is Joy, and I'm going to be talking you through everything that we feel that you need to know about IDL as a brand new customer. So what we're going to focus on in this training is very much back to the very beginning, as if you're brand new to IDL. So this is perfect for any teachers or teaching assistants or even parents that want to really get a grasp of how to navigate the admin side of using IDL. So we're going to look at adding a new student, and we're going to look at the baseline tests, monitoring progress, and basically what the student can have access to within the programme. I will at the end then just log in as a student to show you the site and to have a really quick look at the lessons, just so that you've got a good kind of image of what they look like in your head. Just a couple of things to start with, though, a couple of kind of housekeeping things I like to tell people about, just to make life easier. One of the main things is to ensure that the internet browser that you're using is Google Chrome. IDL will only work on Google Chrome. So if you use Internet Explorer or Safari, it might let you log in, but after a while it will bring up problems. So please ensure that if you haven't already done so, that you download Google Chrome and access IDL through that. If you're using a tablet, if a student's logging in to their site with a tablet, then it has to have an iOS of 10 or above. If that means nothing to you, like it does to me, it basically means if the iPad is really, really old, chances are it won't support the software. But the majority of tablets are absolutely fine. So an iOS of 10 or above, and with a tablet, please make sure that you're downloading the most up-to-date app. I think when you search for IDL on the App Store, there's two that comes up. It has to be the app that is the IDL, then the number 2 mobile. So that's IDL number 2 mobile. Please make sure that all students download that one. And in the same way that we do with a smartphone, we have to make sure that our apps are updated every now and again. If your IT department doesn't do this, then please just ensure that the tablets on a regular basis are updated, just to make sure that you've got the very latest version of the app. We want you to get the very best out of IDL. So these are just a few useful tips before starting off, and by all means please pass this on to not only the students but parents at home as well. If you're going to be allocating homework through IDL, it's really good for parents to know these little tips so that the students don't encounter any problems when using it at home. Brilliant. So now that I've covered that, I'm just going to show you on our website the resources section, which has a lot of really useful information. So if there's any teachers that couldn't make the training today or just kind of want to brush up on some skills, this is a really useful tab to go to on our website. If we scroll down and we go to help guides, you will see here the literacy user guide and the numeracy user guide. These are both really, really fantastic PDFs to download. Either keep a copy in the staff room or even in your desk drawer. They have all the information that you need regarding both the literacy and the numeracy programme. Everything from kind of how the test scoring works, right through to the content of the lessons and things. So by all means contact us. We're available by email or phone, but the user guides are really useful as well, just as a quick resource to be able to refer to if you've got any questions about IDL. If I go back and go to videos, this is a range of YouTube clips that are very much kind of short snippets of what I'm going to be looking at today. So short YouTube videos regarding things like adding a student, how to do the baseline test. So again, really useful to pass on to any teachers that perhaps just need a quick refresh on using IDL. We are in the process of updating these, so they'll be available very, very soon for you to go on and be able to watch. So just a couple of things there for you to know about on the website. Obviously, a lot of other information on the website there in terms of the research behind IDL, but please feel free to go and have a browse in your own time. So let's get down to the most important part. Let's log into IDL as if you are a brand new teacher. You'll have been sent your login details. And this is what you're going to see when you log in. So the box on the right-hand side basically is all the information that we feel is relevant to you as a customer about IDL. So you can see here all the upcoming training dates that we have. You'll also receive information about any new products, any updates to the current products, if we're going to be closed at all, if you're trying to get into contact with us, anything that as a customer we think is important, we're going to make sure is on this news feed here. So please do check it when you log in. But the main bulk of where we're going to be focusing today is this blue box here. Now this has all the information that you need regarding your students on IDL. So first things first, you're brand new to IDL, what would you need to do? So we would need to add all the students to the programme that you would like to enrol. Now there's two ways of doing this. We can add a student individually or we can add them in bulk. It's completely up to you which one works best. If you have one or two students, then I would suggest just adding them individually. But if you're adding a class or a year or even a school of children, there's going to be quite a few. So probably using the Excel spreadsheet way is going to be quicker. So I'm going to show you how to do both. So if we click into Your People, this is the tab that has all the information about all the students on both numeracy and literacy. So here you can see all the names of the students on IDL. This will be blank when you first log in, but don't worry, it's quite self-explanatory. If we click on to New Person, a really easy form to fill out here, first name and last name. Username can be anything you like for that particular student. I often suggest first name and the first initial of a surname. Just bear in mind with the username that the programme will automatically add the @ sign and then the postcode of the school that the IDL account is registered to. So for instance, I would type in here Joy B, but my username would be joyb@la1-2bw or @ and then the postcode of your school. Just really important to point that out so that when you're giving out the login details to the students, that they're correct, so that they don't all come back to you asking for it to be changed or whatever. So it's whatever you put in here, the @ sign and then the postcode of the school. Password can be anything you want it to be. I often suggest something really simple like spelling with a capital S. It can be any letters, uppercase and lowercase, and any numbers, but no symbols. So please, no exclamation marks or full stops. You can have a generic password for the whole school, or you could have one per class, per individual, whatever suits you. Gender, we have the 3 options there. Date of birth, self-explanatory. And probably the most important part, apart from the login details on this page, is to make sure that you enrol the student on one of the programs. If one of these boxes isn't ticked, then when they log in, they won't be able to access the program. So it's really important that you tick whichever it is that you subscribe to. And the program does give you a couple of opportunities to do this, and I'll show you as I'm going along. I think it's easiest to do it on this first page when you're registering them. So either literacy or numeracy, and also now added is our numeracy screener. If you've not heard about our numeracy screener, it's a fantastic tool, a diagnostic tool for looking to see if any of your students have symptoms of dyscalculia. It's free, completely free, and it works fantastically with our numeracy programme. And if it's something that you're interested in, please do drop us an email or give us a call. We'd be more than happy to add that to your profile, and it can be added very easily. So that's the 3 options there of what you can enrol the students into. Obviously, you would press save, and then their name would appear here on the list. So that's how you would add a student individually. If you wanted to add in bulk, like I mentioned before, so if you've got quite a few students that you want to add, we would go back to the home page, click on the pink button under resources, and we would download import users template CSV. So once we clicked on that, that would then download an Excel spreadsheet, and all the information that you've just needed for the individual student, you would need for all the ones that you're going to upload. It just means that it's all on one sheet. You can add them just underneath each other, so you don't need to keep clicking out and back into new person. So you would still need their first name, last name, date of birth to create them a username and password, and also to enroll them on whatever program it is that you had. Once you'd filled all those in, we would go to account at the top there and import pupils. We would then choose to select the file, the Excel spreadsheet that you would have saved to your computer, and upload. It's as simple as that. And once you'd uploaded it, they would all appear here in the same page as if you were to add them individually. So those are the two ways of adding a student to IDL. And like I said before, entirely up to you which one works best. You might do a mixture of both. So once you've added all the students, they're going to be here on the page. So that's the first step done. What I want to do now is just go through what these 5 icons here next to each student's name has inside it. They all hold a lot of information. So I just want to go through each one so that you're clear on what each one is. So if we click on the first one, you'll see here all the information that you've just added. Enrolments is another opportunity there, if you haven't already done so, to tick which box you would like to add the student to, or if you've added another, perhaps you've added the screener on, you can go into enrolments here and just tick that. Groups is where you can select the student to be part of a group, which I'm going to show you how to create in just a moment. It's very, very easy. So if you're a teacher, perhaps you are a class 4 teacher, and you want to log into IDL, to save having to go through all the other students within the school, we can narrow it down so you just see yours for things like monitoring progress or setting tests, etc. Buttons is such an important tab, so really fantastic to be able to control what students have access to within IDL. The most important ones that would need to be ticked is either the screener, literacy, or numeracy, depending on what you were a customer of. So these would have to be ticked if you subscribe to them in order for the student to access them. The other ones are completely, it's up to you whether you think they're relevant for each individual student. If you've not got a lot of time, by all means, keep them ticked. But I am going to go in at the end and just go through what each of those are so that you're really clear and you can then decide whether it's appropriate for each student to have access. All really useful tools. Yeah, so we'll go through what those are in just a wee while. Placement at the end there, not something that we really encourage you to go on. If you were to look at moving a student up a module or down a module, if they were finding the programme extremely difficult or extremely easy, then we would ask you to contact us beforehand. If the baseline test is done correctly, then the student should begin at their exact level and it should be correct. So they shouldn't need to be moved. If, however, you're adamant that they should move up or down, then please, like I said, get in contact with us. We'll help you decide where would be best to place them at. That's why we've got the warning sign there at the top, just because we'd prefer it if teachers didn't go in and move, just so the students' progress is monitored correctly and that they're working at their correct level. So that's the first tab there. The next one along is a message tab. Really useful, especially recently when students have been learning from home. You can send the student a message so that when they log in, they will receive that message and it will pop up. The wonderful thing is that the student cannot reply. So you're not going to get any messages back. You could use it for allocating any homework or telling them what lessons you would like completed, and also maybe words of encouragement if you see that they've done really well in a particular module. Anything you feel that you need to communicate with that student, this is the best way to do it so that they see it when they log into their IDL. So you simply type whatever it is you want to, and then you would press send. It's very, very easy. The next tab along is the progress report. Really useful tab, a kind of summary page to show you how the student is doing in IDL. So we could click on either literacy or numeracy and press submit, and this would download it for us. But just to go through really quickly what each one is, we can see at the top here, just a general kind of summary, and this is for literacy, of what lesson they're on, their starting reading age and their current reading age. So we can see the nice jump there. Same with spelling. We can see how many tests have been completed and also how many activities they've done while being on IDL. The graph just below shows the student's progress from their very first baseline test up to their last test. So we know the student has completed 2. So we can see a nice incline there of their progress between the 2 tests, and that's what we want to see. A little bit further down, just formatted differently, we can see the same information. We can see the date of the first assessment and the date of the last. Again, the increase of age and ability. And if we scroll down just a little bit further, a really useful kind of area to look at, I call it the spying page, because it's a really good tool to be able to see when and for how long each student has logged in for. So if you said to them, right, Joe Blogs, I want you to log into IDL for 1 hour on Friday in the library and complete X amount of modules or lessons, then you can actually go in and see that the student has completed that work, that they logged in at the time allocated and they logged out, so they completed what you had set them. It's also good for homework as well. And not only that, just to be able to see the amount of time that students are spending on the programme, which we recommend to be around 1 hour per week. You can divide that up however you see fit, 20-minute chunks or 15 minutes. If they're really enjoying it and not easily distracted, by all means, they could do the full hour in one go. It completely depends what works for you as a teacher with the time that you have in the classroom. I know that at the moment, well, definitely in recent months, there's been a lot of students spending a lot longer on the programme when they've been at home, which is fine, which is fantastic because they're going to progress even quicker. But yeah, 1 hour per week is what we would suggest to see that nice increase of ability, which is around 11 months of age within 26 hours of using the programme. So that's why we recommend 1 hour per week, just to be able to see that nice incline of progression on the graphs that I showed you above there. So that is the progress report. The next one along is the transition button. So for any students moving to the school or moving up a school, if those schools have IDL, then you can transfer the student's data. It just means that when a new student comes to the school or when they move, you don't need to complete the baseline test and kind of add them from scratch. You can just have all their data transferred over, and it makes their learning journey a lot smoother as well. What you would do is for any students moving to the school, you would give the school that they're coming from your transition number. Now, to find this, it's very easy. If we go to account and we go to your account, you'll see here that the transition code is there. So that's what you would give to the school, and it would transfer the student automatically. Likewise, if a student was to move up a school, you would then ask the school that they're moving to for their transition code. You would then input it into this box and you would press transition. And the last box there is the delete this pupil. Please be sure if you want to delete them from IDL due to GDPR, where we can't pull back any data. So just be really careful to not delete any students unless you're absolutely sure that you want to remove them from IDL. So those are what those 5 tabs are there. A lot of information, but once you've kind of gone through it initially, it's really good just to know where everything is. You can go in and amend depending on how each pupil is doing, if they're moving, etc., and also have a quick look at their progress. So now that you know a little bit more about the kind of set out of this page, we would look to do the baseline test. Now, when you add a brand new student, a baseline test will automatically be scheduled. I'm going to go in and show you how to schedule a test, because once the initial one's been done, you will have to then set all the other ones that are to follow. But initially, you will have a test scheduled for both literacy and numeracy. If we click into literacy progress, you will see here all the students that you've ticked the box for literacy. Okay, and if you wanted to set a group test in the future, you could simply click on set a group test, select whichever date you wanted and press save. If the test doesn't go ahead on that day, please don't worry, it will just remain scheduled until the test is completed. But it does mean that when the student logs in, they won't be able to access the literacy programme until that test has been completed. So like I said, initially they will have a test set. If we go to Mickey Mouse's profile here, we can see a timeline. And what you would see is an orange box that says scheduled test. So all of the students will have a scheduled test for literacy. How the literacy test works is it's done face-to-face. So you would be with the student, not in a group, one-to-one, and I'm going to show you how to complete the baseline test for literacy and then upload the results. So if we go back to the home page and click on the resources button, you see a tab there that says view the test on screen, which we're going to look at just now, but you can download it. Obviously, you're going to be using it more than once. You're going to have to show the student it. So definitely download it and keep a copy in your desk. But for the purpose of the training, view the test on screen. It's really self-explanatory, this test. I am going to run through briefly how to do it. After a lot of research, we find that this is the best way of getting really accurate results within literacy to make sure that the student is starting on their exact level. The instructions there at the top are very clear, but let's just scroll down so I can show you both the reading and the spelling test. How it works for the reading, and exactly the same for the spelling in fact, is you would start from left to right, asking the student to read or spell the words, and after 5 consecutive wrong answers, you would then stop the test. So for instance, if this student was to spell to something, and they had got the 5 previous answers incorrect, we would then count up how many correct words they had read, and their reading score would be 15. If we scroll down, because it's a separate set of words for the spelling, you will see here exactly the same. So start from left to right. After 5 consecutive wrong answers, please stop the test, add up how many they've got correct, and that's their score for spelling. What we do say is please don't prompt the students, so let's hear very much from them. If there's a word that they don't understand, by all means put it into a sentence so they do. But other than that, we really want the results to be accurate, so very much let it be from the student. So once you completed that for the student, you would then go back into your people, back into literacy progress, and back into the student's profile. And where you had a box that said scheduled test, we would click into, and it's a simple drop down where it asks for this reading score and the spelling score. You would simply input those, press save, and that would automatically generate a blue box like this one to show that a test had been completed, on what date, and what reading and spelling score they had got. It'll also show you the reading age and the spelling age, and this is what the software uses to then determine where to start the student based on their results. Every student starts on a different level, depending on what they score. So it's really important that these results are accurate so that they're starting on their right path and begin their journey with IDL literacy. So that's how you would complete the baseline test for literacy. Obviously, when you first start, every test will be set. And then we suggest testing for both literacy and numeracy, a minimum of twice a year and a maximum of once every term. We realise that if you have a lot of students on IDL, it can be quite time consuming. So twice a year is absolutely fine, perhaps when they come back after the summer break and then before they leave the following year for the summer, just so that you can monitor that progress within the academic year. But if you would like to test more on certain individuals, by all means, please do. Once every term is absolutely fine. We do suggest not over-testing, just we want to keep the results really accurate, and also the students will become familiar with the test. So once every term as a maximum is absolutely fine. I am going to show you the numeracy test as well, how to set that, just so that you know how to do that for the future. Like I said before, there will be a test automatically set when you add a student to numeracy, but then after that you will have to go in and manually set one. So we can do that by setting a group test exactly the same way, or if we click into Buzz Lightyear's profile there, we would simply add a test and that would schedule one, so that the student would then log in to their IDL profile, click on numeracy, and it would begin the test. The wonderful thing about numeracy is that the test is done online. So once you've set it, you can leave the student then and they just log in and complete the test. And it's similar in terms of literacy, that after so many wrong answers, it would then stop the test and generate their results automatically, setting them at their exact level of where they need to start on the numeracy programme. So it's very easy, kind of once you've set the test for the students, you don't have a lot to do when it comes to numeracy. I just want to go into the screener very briefly because there is separate screener training, but just to show you while we're here how easy it is again to set a screener test. It's exactly the same, so either set a group test for all students or go into their profile, press add a test, and we can see there the orange box that has a test scheduled for Monday the 15th of June, which has not yet been completed, but that's absolutely fine because like I said, it would delete a scheduled test if it's not completed on that date. It will just wait until one is completed in order to begin the programme. But for the schedule, for the screener, sorry, as long as one's scheduled, that's absolutely fine. They then log in to their IDL profile, they click on the screener and they can begin that. So quite easy in terms of the baseline test. With the literacy, a little bit more time consuming, but by definitely the most effective way to get those results accurately. So once you've completed the baseline test, that is it for a while for the teachers, which is nice. You can let the students log in and get on with their programme, be it literacy, numeracy, or the screener. It's very much designed for independent learning, IDL. So we really encourage you to let the students just crack on with it. By all means, you are going to want to go in and see how they're doing, and that's what I'm going to show you next. But there are kind of tools within the software that are designed to help the students so that you don't necessarily have to be sat beside them watching what they do while they're on their programme. So let's have a look just now at how you would monitor their progress. So they've been on IDL for a while, you want to log in and see how such and such is doing and have a look at how many lessons they've completed, what they've been doing within those lessons. Really easy and very similar for both numeracy and literacy in order to have a look at their progress. We click into literacy progress first of all, and we go to, let's go to Buzz Lightyear. You'll see here the timeline that I showed you before, which has the completed tests and also the green boxes. You will also see at some points as well yellow boxes, which basically show that a module is part way through. That's what the student is currently working on. But for the purpose of this training, we're going to click along to the next tab and let's go into module J. And we can see here, in fact, I'm going to go into a different student because this student seems to be scoring 5 stars on absolutely everything, which, let's be honest, is probably not realistic. So let's have a look at Mickey Mouse, which looks probably a little bit more accurate in terms of progress. So we've clicked into one of the modules, module H, to be able to see how the student's doing within this module. You'll see here along the top all the areas within literacy that they have been studying. So dictation, sentence, story, comprehension, and spelling. And the colours there are just coded to the boxes below. The maximum that a student can score on a lesson is 5 stars, and the minimum is 1 star. So straight away, just by looking at the page, I can see that this student is doing extremely well within dictation. And we can see the 4 stars there. And we can see different areas of 1 star. So we'd want to go in and be able to have a look at what the content of those lessons were. Let's have a quick look at lesson H7, where they've scored 5 stars. This gives you a brief kind of summary of what the content of the lesson has been. So we can see here dictation spelling lesson with lowercase, the short vowel sounds, and we can see what they've been asked to do, to listen carefully to the following words, to then go on and type the following words. So we can see they've done really well within this lesson. They've scored 5 stars. If we click into attempts, we would see here the date of which the lesson was completed. We would see a start time and end time from when they started the lesson to finishing. And then we see at the end there, their overall score of 5 stars. So if a student, for instance, if we look at lesson H16, if we click into this, we know that they've scored 1 star. And we can also see here with the time, they've spent 35 minutes on this lesson. So we know that this is a lesson that they have really struggled with, not only because of the time, but also because of their final score of just 1 star. So we then have a look at the content and we can say, okay, this is where the student has struggled, which is absolutely fine, because IDL is designed for to incorporate revision as well as new learning, and it recognises when a student has struggled with a lesson, and it will bring in that revision needed as they progress throughout the programme. We don't expect students to score 5 stars. It's not what it's designed for. It's designed to help increase their ability within literacy, and that includes the areas that they might struggle with. So we could go through all the lessons there and have a look into each one if we wish. But one thing I think is really useful is if we click on overall, you kind of see an instant visual there of how the student is doing within this module. The blue indicates the maximum level that the student can score or be at this time. The green indicates where they actually are. So we can see here straight away that they've not done any work on comprehension yet, but the other areas within literacy, they are definitely not scoring the maximum, but they're doing well. The green shows that they are over halfway on all the different areas. And I love this graph because it's kind of instant. You can see, right, they're doing well. They're slowly kind of getting up there. I think it's excellent for things like staff meetings or parents' evening to be able to show mum and dad how they're doing within literacy. So a really good tool to use is to have a look at this graph here. And it's also a lot less time consuming. If you have a lot of students on IDL, you're not going to be able to kind of spend all day going through each lesson to see what they've covered, but you can definitely click into overall and be able to see straight away how they're doing. When our module has been completed, we have a certificate that you can download. And again, I really urge you to use this. It's fantastic for things like school assemblies, again, parents' evening. Every parent loves to get a certificate for their child. And depending on how many modules they've completed, you could have a nice little pile to give them. But yeah, really good encouragement for the student. It shows that you're acknowledging and seeing that they are progressing through the programme. So I really recommend that you use the certificates there that are downloadable. If we click on the next tab along, which is the tests, this is where you can see how many tests they've been completed and also the progress throughout those tests. So obviously they'll have completed their initial baseline test to be able to determine what level they start on. And then after that, it will be good to be able to go in and compare how they're progressing with each test. If we click on graph view, this is the graph that you saw earlier on the progress report. And like I said before, it shows you from their very first baseline test up to where they are now. So we can see a nice incline there, steady incline between the 2 tests that they've set. And down at the bottom, exactly the same as before, just the information regarding the tests. Again, use this for parents' evenings, staff meetings, etc. The ABC lessons and spelling lessons are not relevant for everybody. I will go over what those are when I log in as a student. But this is the all activities page at the end there, which again I showed you before on the progress report, where you can monitor when and for how long the students have logged in to their literacy programme. If we go into numeracy, just so I can show you, it very much mirrors literacy in terms of how you navigate it, so it's nice and easy to follow. And if we go into Buzz Lightyear's profile there, we'll see the same timeline. So the green indicates the modules completed, and there's the yellow there to say that this student is partway through module 21. And if we go to the level and we click in, let's have a look at 2E. We can see here very much similar layout to literacy. So we can see all the principles within numeracy there that they will be studying. So bonds, counting, sequencing, patterns, number value, place value, and arithmetic. So let's have a look at lesson 4. We can see here the majority of the lesson has been focused on arithmetic, with a nice chunk there on place value. We can see that they've scored 5 stars. And if we click on the binoculars, we'll see the date that they completed it, the start time and end time, what number of stars they've scored, and also if they've had any additional help from the programme in order to answer the question. Just looking at this, we can see the student has done incredibly well. Gosh, they finished the lesson in under a minute. I obviously completed this one. And they've not had any additional help at all within the lesson. So things like the hint or the simplify, where the programme will just give them a kind of bit of a hint or a simplification of the question in order to make it just a little bit easier to answer. But we can see that the student here hasn't needed that at all, and they've still scored the 5 stars. And exactly the same as literacy, you can go in and have a look depending on what lesson, especially as well with the seeing how the lessons are divided up. If you thought a student was maybe struggling within one of these areas, you can see easily what they've been studying and where, and go in and have a look. But to make it nice and easy for you, we have put the graph in there as well. A nice kind of instant visual, so you can see how the student is doing on numeracy. The student is doing incredibly well, scoring the maximum on every area within numeracy. So yeah, the blue is again the maximum level at this stage, and the green is where they actually are scoring. So again, really useful for parents' evening, staff meetings, etc., or just for your reference when you want to log in. And we have the certificates there again for you to be able to download for every module that has been completed. The levels would just go up there with you being able to go in and see the progress. Tests at the end, exactly the same as literacy. You'll see the completed tests with the graph. Now this student has just completed 1 test, so there's not any kind of incline there. But after their next test, we would be able to see how they're progressing throughout numeracy. And the all activities page at the end there, exactly the same. And you can see when and for how long they've logged in to numeracy. So we do keep them both separate. The numeracy and the literacy programs are very much separate. So if you allocate time for the student to go into literacy, you can make sure that they have done, and exactly the same for maths. So they're both different kind of lesson logs there, where you can go in and see what time they've spent on which program. I just want to go in and show you literacy distribution, something that we hope to have for numeracy very soon. So bear with us, the product development team are constantly working to improve and add new things to the programme. And yeah, they're doing some great stuff that we'll absolutely let you know about in the future. But for now, the literacy distribution graph is a really useful way to get an overall view of how the school is doing using IDL. Obviously, as paying customers, you want to know that this programme is working. You want to know that the students are progressing within literacy. So this is really useful to use just to go on and have a quick look. If we hover over the blue dots, you'll see that they represent all the students within literacy, within the school. And we can see that this is their initial spelling marker. So you can see a lot of the students there are below average, definitely some in the lower extreme. So if we go in and click current spelling, we would then see here the jump. So we can see a nice jump there to where the majority are in the green. Still a few there that are working their way up, but that's absolutely fine. It's just good to be able to see, right, we've had this for 2 years in our school. Let's see from where we started to where we are now in terms of the progress. And you can also do it for reading as well. So the initial reading score there and the current. So we can see that increase as well within all the students who are registered on the literacy programme. So I love this graph. I think it's really useful and definitely good to be able to show head teachers, etc., how the programme is working within the school. So that's just a little bit about how to look into the progress of the students. Feedback from them as well, and to see their work in class is going to be a great way to be able to see the progress. And also, I think as you use the programme, like with anything, you'll have questions, you'll have ideas, but please do come to us if there's any other information that you want, or if there's anything that you would like to suggest for IDL. We're always really open to hear new ideas. You are the people that are using it, and we want to make it the best for you. So as you're using the programme, by all means contact us for anything at all that we can help with. What I'm going to do now is just log in as a student, just to show you. Oh, apologies, I don't know what I've done there. There we go. So this is a student's profile. This is Buzz Lightyear's here. And on the right-hand side would be all the messages that you have sent the student. So like I showed you before, where you can send them a message, this will appear here when they log in. What we're going to look at just now is this blue box, and I'm going to go through what all these areas are, just so that you know, and you can decide whether they're relevant for the students. Remember, I showed you the buttons tab, which lets you tick and untick the boxes that you want the student to have access to. Well, this is all of them here. So I'm going to go through what each of them are, and then it's entirely up to you if you want to keep them ticked or not for the students within your school. So obviously, the literacy and the numeracy are the two kind of main areas that they're going to be looking at, and the pupil screener there in the middle as well. So those are the ones that would need to be ticked depending on what you subscribe to. And the student would log in and simply just click on the button to begin their programme. I am going to go in at the end and just show you a numeracy lesson and a literacy lesson. They're both very different, but just so you can get an idea visually of what they look like. Let's have a look though at the other tabs below so that you know what each of those are. So the literacy progress and numeracy progress there. I'm actually going to go into literacy because I know numeracy doesn't have any. Yeah, so it's basically a very similar view to what you see as a teacher. So if we click into Module J, you'll see that they can see the number of stars scored. They can also see the graph there. And if we go into the details, they can see the time and the stars, etc. For some students to be able to see their progress is going to really boost them on. It's going to give them that confidence. They can see they're doing really well. For other students who perhaps are struggling a little bit more, either in literacy or numeracy, it's entirely up to you whether you think it's beneficial for them to be able to see their progress. For some people, perhaps it won't be. So that's when you would untick on that box to be able to see the literacy or numeracy progress. Like I said, entirely up to you. Every student is different. The literacy book and the numeracy book is basically all the lessons and all the modules within each programme. So if you would like a student to be able to go on and see what's to come, or perhaps do a bit of revision from previous lessons, by all means, you can keep this open. Some students really like to kind of go in and have a go at really much harder questions, see kind of what's going to come in the lessons in the future. But again, if you've got a student that's easily distracted and perhaps would do this more than the actual programme, then you don't need to keep it ticked. It's entirely up to you, like I said, for each of these. Colours is a fantastic tool. We have over 1,000 different colours for any student with dyslexia to be able to pick from. And this includes the background and also the text colour. If a student doesn't have dyslexia, I think it's fine just to let it be at default. But definitely for the students with dyslexia, let them spend 5–10 minutes when they're first registered onto IDL to go in and just select what works best for them. We want them to feel really comfortable using the software, and this is something we've worked hard to make sure that we've got right, just so that when they log in, they're confident and they're comfortable with the colours that they're seeing. The ABC book is a fantastic tool. Again, it's not going to be relevant for everybody. If you have a student that you think perhaps wouldn't be able to score anything on the baseline test, so those students with much lower ability, then the ABC book is a fantastic tool to use just to prepare them for the baseline test. So it's 3 modules. And it looks at, just like I said, getting them ready for that initial baseline test, giving them the confidence they need, and just increasing their ability so that they can score on the baseline test for literacy. So it's not going to be relevant for everybody. It's just going to be certain individuals, but a really, really good tool to use. Spelling book is a fantastic tool, one that I think probably isn't used enough. It's subject specific. So if you have a student that is really interested in, say, history or sport, they can go on and do some spelling revision based around these subjects. It's excellent for homework, fantastic for the last 10 minutes in class. You can say jump on IDL and do 10 minutes spelling revision. So yeah, a really, really good tool, the spelling book. The typing book is similar to ABC. It's not going to be relevant for everybody. If you have a student that perhaps is a little bit nervous or unsure of touch typing or navigating a keypad, then please do let them log in and use the typing book, which will just get them ready for when they're on the literacy programme, so that they feel comfortable. Things like lowercase, uppercase, cap locks, return key, etc. We just want them to feel as confident as possible so that they're focusing on the lesson. So again, it's entirely up to you if you think it's relevant for a student. If they're a whiz on a keypad, then probably not. But for those with perhaps less experience using a keypad, then it'd be a really good tool for them to be able to go on and use. So that's an overview there of what all of these tabs are for. What I'm going to do now is, towards the end of the training, I am aware of the time, is just to log in very quickly to numeracy and literacy and just briefly show you what a lesson looks like. So if we click into the numeracy tab here, you'll see that this student has a scheduled test. So this is what a student would see when they first logged in. If we click onto that, we'll see that it's number 21. And I'm praying right now that this is an easy question as I do this training and not one that I'm going to struggle to answer. And you'll see here straight away that it's quite visually engaging. We've got cartoon characters, there's a nice setting there. And if we click start, question, and then select. So we can see here, Pam had 17 marbles, her friend gave her 10 more. How many marbles does she have altogether? So this is how the numeracy test and programme is laid out. So often the question up here, be it in a classroom, a cinema, a kitchen, we can see the question, and then down at the bottom here, the answers that we would have to choose from and select if it's drag up or it maybe is an object, etc. And the test would continue like that. So you can see there that there's no kind of indication of whether they've got the question correct or incorrect. It just moves them on to the next lesson. I'm going to go into literacy now and just show you, if you've not seen literacy before, just the difference. Literacy is much more stripped back, and that's because we want to keep it really kind of clean and not too distracting for any students with dyslexia. And we've done a lot of work into making sure that we've got this right down to the font that we use on the lettering. And we've done research into what works best for students with dyslexia. So you can see here much more of a blank screen, which is great for those students. Yes. What we would do here is we would type the word over the letters and then press space. And we would continue doing this. I'm getting them all correct just for the purpose. If I was to get a letter wrong, it would ask me to repeat the question until I got it correct. Now, this is just an example of one of the lessons. There's so many that we just wouldn't have time to go through all the different lessons with yourself. And this is a very long sentence as well for a demonstration. I'm going to stop and not keep going because it'll end up being a paragraph and I don't want to keep you here all day. But you can get the gist of how this particular lesson would work. Obviously, a child would not be taken, they would take probably longer to complete this lesson and with mistakes as well. If they did need any assistance, if they were struggling, we can use this blue tab in the corner, which is the assistant. You can see here that it brings up a different kind of keypad, which is useful. It's designed so that it doesn't require them to call a teacher over. It kind of plays the assistant. So instead of having to come to you and ask, this blue button is fantastic. But just bear in mind that if they do switch this assistant on, they have to switch it off before they can finish the lesson. If not, it will continue to repeat the lesson for them. So just make sure that students are aware that once they've clicked the assistance button on, they then have to click it off in order to move on to what would be question 2. I hope that makes sense. I'm just going to exit this lesson and go back to the home page. So I hope that gives you just a very quick visual of the lessons. I presume that you'll have had a look at them before. If you want any other information about the content or if you want to have a further look, then please do get in touch with us. We're more than happy to set up an online demonstration of anything that you want to go over regarding IDL. And you can give us a phone or drop us an email with any other questions that you might have as well. But I hope this has been useful in terms of initially setting up IDL as a new customer and being able to add the students to the programme and get them on with their literacy or numeracy programme. Thank you so much for your time, much appreciated, and have a great day.